Ben has had a lot of success in business. You've seen him on the air, especially during the pandemic. He's all over the Business Channel. Is that part of your motivation for getting in?
Well, my motivation for getting in is I'm from Maine. I grew up in Maine. My wife's from Maine. Our three kids grew up in the state, and it's really an incredible place. And, it built our character, it built our kids' character, and really, without going on too long, over the last 7 years, I've watched the decline of the state from what it used to be. It used to be a tremendous place, and now we've got 30% of the state on welfare. Businesses are running from the state. We're in the top 10 of drug overdoses and drug deaths in the country. We actually lost our nephew to a drug overdose. These things that are happening in Maine, we have the highest electricity increases in the country. They're all policy-based decisions. So now that I'm no longer with the business, in a good place in my life, the kids are old enough that they understand the motivation to jump into this, that we decided now was the best time to get in and try to make a difference. 5 areas I think we're focusing on, and there's about 22, 23 issues that are wrong in the state right now, like a lot of, I think Democrat-run states, but it's the economy, the cost of living in the state, which has gone up dramatically, and Maine's one of the lowest income states in the country. We're also one of the highest tax burden states, so it's really not a good mix for the folks that live there. Opportunity is leaving the state because we're not business friendly, so it's very hard to get businesses in the state, and we've got a lot of businesses that are leaving the state, for lower tax states. New Hampshire, for example, is right next door. Support of law enforcement. We're going to defend the police, not defund the police. We have to get back behind those folks. And then fix education. We made this switch to social emotional learning about 6 or 7 years ago, and our kids.
Is that what it's called, or is that what you label it?
No, that's what it is. They made the point to say, the Commissioner of Education, that academics is going to take a back seat to social emotional learning, and it's been terrible. We've had massive investment. The schools have dropped to, the lowest in the country. Really, the lowest test scores we've ever had in the history of the state of Maine. And we still have one in high school. And for parents right now to understand what their kids are learning and making sure they're rationalizing what's happening, keeping the politics out of the schools is very hard. And you need to get that back in place so kids have a much better chance to have a good career, whether they go into the trades or some other opportunity, and then stay in the state. So we've got a lot of areas we need to fix.
What do you think to people who think that life is tough and these kids don't have opportunities today and all those things? Where does grit come in? Where does luck come in? And do you think it's harder for a young person today than it is when 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago?
I love that question. Yeah. So for myself, I tried to make it through college. I tried my best. My parents sent me off with $500. I was working 3 jobs to try to make it through. And after a couple of years, I just couldn't afford it. So
Where were you?
I went out to Santa Barbara, California, and Santa Barbara City College. And then after a couple of years, I just continued to work. And I think, I don't know if it said in the beginning of the video, but one of those jobs I had was cleaning machines in a gym in exchange for a membership. And that's how I got in the industries, from the very bottom. And I just tried to keep working myself up. Ran into some tough times. I ended up on unemployment. I ended up on food stamps. And that was back in the day when food stamps were these brightly colored tickets. You'd have to tear them off in the grocery store aisle and present them. It was very humbling. And I knew I didn't want to be there, and hard work was going to be the only way out. So you just dig in.
Were you in California?
I was in Maine at that time. Yeah. And, I wanted to stay in the fitness industry because I had been in the industry for 6, 7 years. And there wasn't a lot of opportunity in Maine at that time in the fitness industry. So I did everything I could. I mowed lawns. I packed sea urchins, until I could get back in the industry, and got back in. And over 30 years, ended up, just kind of learning from as many people as I could, reading as much as I could, making mistakes, getting back up, trying it again. And then fortunately got a lot of momentum. But I think for these younger kids, whether you're a college graduate or not, whether you go to the trades or you just try to pursue something on your own, as long as you keep going, you're probably going to be fine. And that's the message I think we need to get out there. And then government needs to stay out of the way.
Do you think we have to have politicians decide where they stand on capitalism, when that's usually a given if you're in the American?
Yeah, I mean, based on
the mayor of New York City, the one who almost won in Minneapolis, the one that may win yet in Seattle?
Yeah, based on what I've seen, similar to what you've seen, is it's really sad that a lot of folks think that socialism or some form of socialism might be the answer. And it just means they don't have the opportunities that they need, right, that they want. And the government is not there to help them get those opportunities. It's better to make people dependent on the system than give them the opportunity to do better for themselves, their family.
Right.
To those people.
Your previous governor, sparred with President Trump.
Still does.
Yeah, still does. Over men and women's sports.
Mm-hmm.
Or men and women's locker rooms. First off, where do you stand?
I don't support that.
The trans.
Yeah, no, I support girls, yeah.
Are you going to take a strong stand against the sitting governor right now?
Well,
on that issue?
Should we win, I mean, we obviously support girls, right? It's not just a safety issue, it's a fairness issue, it's the intent of Title IX. So I would certainly sign into a law, protections for women in women's sports. I support the president without question. The challenge we have in Maine is, and I think you mentioned it earlier, is the current governor and the attorney general. They've sued the administration 25 times with taxpayer money. That's not the way to go about it. When you're governor, I mean, your primary goal is to take care of the folks in Maine. So if for some reason something comes up that the administration has set out there that doesn't work well for the people of Maine, you're going to be in a far better position as a Republican governor to go sit down and talk about it and try and get to the outcome of that. So we're going to try to end all that drama, partner with the administration as best we can. But obviously, as governor, you have to make sure whatever's happening is best for the folks in your state.
And lastly, Ben, what's your family's reaction? It was hard enough because you were only working 1,000 hours. What's your family's reaction to being out there knowing there's going to mean criticism of you?
Yeah, that's already happened. But I'll tell you, once you go from the private sector to politics, once you at least my personal experience, once you rip off the Band-Aid and you're out there, then all that anxiety and that concern goes away, at least for me personally, because there's a real purpose and a real cause to this. Like I said, this is not for me to extend my career. This is not for, for any ego.
You look at it as service.
Reason. Yeah, you've got to go. And that was my dad. My dad was, he's a military vet. He spent his whole life taking care of veterans. And by the way, happy early Veterans Day to all of our veterans tomorrow. Right. I mean, without them, we wouldn't be anywhere. And he spent his life, taking care of vets. He was the American Legionnaire of the Year for the state of Maine, and I think that instilled in our whole family the desire for public service. So they're all on board. They're actually pretty excited, and in some cases, I got to stop them from getting so fired up.
All right, good. So if people want to support you in your run for governor, where do they go?
benforgovernor.com.
Very simple. Ben, congratulations on all your success. Best of luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, Brian.
And I know one thing, you will not be outworked.
No way. No, thank you.